Warning, for the Red Sox and Red Sox fans, this video could be downright terrifying.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. Happy Halloween, everybody. It is October 31st. The World Series is officially 3 games down, meaning there are 4 games to go, and then the offseason begins, which should be very exciting for the Boston Red Sox. Now, so far before the offseason has started, we've gone over a lot of different possibilities for the Red Sox to improve their team going into 2024, and the general consensus is that the Red Sox are going to be making some pretty big moves this offseason, right? You don't fire Chaim Bloom, you don't bring in Craig Breslow, you don't make the statements you have made if you're not going to make a big splash. But that doesn't mean that they can make a big splash, right? And there is a possibility that everything goes wrong. And what happens then? What happens if everything the Red Sox are planning or trying to do this offseason does not work out? It's a very scary thought, and because it's Halloween, we're going to be breaking it down today. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what I think is the worst case scenario for the Boston Red Sox, how that could happen, and how the Red Sox could prevent it. But before we get into that, do me a favor. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. So I think for worst case scenario to truly come to fruition here, a couple of different things are going to need to fall in line to get to the ultimate end goal of the worst possible thing that could happen to the Red Sox. But in my opinion, it all starts obviously here with starting pitching, right? It is by far and away the biggest need for the Boston Red Sox going into 2024. It's something we've talked about almost like every other video going into 2024, right? Everyone wants starting pitching, and the Boston Red Sox have the ability to really improve their rotation going into 2024 with some of the guys on the free agent market, right? But what happens if they swing and miss on all of them? And I'm not talking about every single pitcher on the free agent market. I'm talking about the big names, the top 3, Yamamoto, Aaron Nola, and Blake Snell, probably in that order as to how they could impact this team. Those are 3 different guys who, if the Red Sox pick up, could completely transform this rotation. And the general assumption around fans is that the Red Sox will legitimately try and pick up one of the 3 of these guys, maybe even multiple, right? We are with the understanding that the Red Sox want to really make a splash and improve this rotation, but what happens if they don't, right? There is a small, in my opinion, but legitimate situation where John Henry or the ownership group don't want to spend the money to get these big time free agents here. Or, in my opinion, even worse, there is a scenario where the Red Sox want to spend this money. They want to go out and get that big ticket free agent pitcher, but no one wants to come here, right? There are a bunch of different options here, and if the Red Sox match those offers and aren't a destination that these guys want to go to, that could be a massive issue. It would add fuel to the fire that the Red Sox aren't a desirable destination anymore. It would absolutely cook the owners who have been pretty upfront about wanting to spend money and get back into this thing in 2024. And it's not an impossible situation either. The Red Sox would then immediately back themselves into a corner pretty quickly here into the off season, but that doesn't mean they can't still get the job done, because as most of us know, the free agent class in 2024 is pretty shallow, right? Once you get past sort of the top 10-ish guys, it really drops off a cliff talent-wise, and so most people are assuming that the trade market's gonna be pretty active in the 2024 off season. This is where really the worst case scenario starts to take shape, right? Because what you're looking at on the trade market is Craig Breslow, who has no MLB front office chief baseball operator experience heading this team in the trade market, right? And I trust Craig Breslow. I trust the people that are surrounding Craig Breslow, and I really think Craig Breslow will do a good job in the front office, but we don't know, right? We don't know if he's going to be able to pick up that phone and if he's going to be able to make a concise judgment very quickly and decide whether or not a trade is worth it from the Red Sox. There is a possibility here, if we're talking worst case scenario, that the Red Sox miss out on those free agents, so they turn to the trade market, and either Craig Breslow doesn't have the experience and connections to get a trade done, or he does have the experience and connections to get on the phone with these guys, but he can't make up up his mind on trades and they lose out that way, or no one really wants what the Red Sox are offering, right? Maybe the Red Sox are looking to move guys off their 40-man roster, but everyone's looking for those top 100 prospects the Red Sox have sitting in their farm system right now, right? We don't entirely know if it's going to be able to match up. So there's a couple of different scenarios here where the trade market doesn't even work out for the Boston Red Sox, and that's a really terrifying thought, because now what you're looking at is a passing of free agents, an inability to get a trade done, and a rotation going into 2024 that looks something like Bayo, Chris Sale, Nick Pivetta, Cutter Crawford, and Tanner Houck, right? And I don't think that's the worst rotation in Major League Baseball, but you're not getting any better. You're not improving this rotation to the point where it's a legit playoff contender. Now, could this rotation work out if you add in a Jordan Montgomery or a Michael Lorenzen, one of the lower end free agents? Not lower end's the wrong word there, but one of the not top tier free agent pitchers. Could that really improve this rotation? It could, but again, it's not going to turn it around, which I think a lot of fans need to see, and I think the Red Sox need to see as well, right? So you'd be going into the 2024 season after really understanding how poorly you did pitching-wise last year, with essentially the same rotation, only a little bit better because you don't have Corey Kluber, and maybe you can add in a Jordan Montgomery or Michael Lorenzen, right? That's not enough to really make a splash and bring this team to competition, but it could still get worse from here. It's not just the pitching side things could go bad on. There are things outside of the starting rotation that could go poorly, that could really hurt the Red Sox this offseason, and one of them is not having an identity going into 2024. Justin Turner was really the true leader of the Boston Red Sox in 23, despite not being here for a long period of time, and it feels like there's a very low chance of him returning to the Boston Red Sox. So what does that gap in leadership look like going into 2024? Now, there's a possibility you go out and you trade for a guy who's a natural leader, maybe an older veteran like Justin Turner. There's a chance that you bring Justin Turner back, and there's a chance that guys like Trevor Story, who's turned into a bit of a mentor, Rafael Devers, who was a big brother to Bayo and Wilyer Abreu this season and last season, or Kenley Jansen steps up in a really big role, but none of those guys have truly stepped into the legitimate leader of the Boston Red Sox yet. And what happens if they don't, or what happens if the Red Sox are so focused on starting pitching, or the lack thereof in the success of getting starting pitching, and they completely forget to add to this Red Sox clubhouse, right? Now all of a sudden you're walking into 2024 without a true identity. You don't have one set team direction. You got a bunch of guys who want to win, but there's a difference between a bunch of guys who want to win and a bunch of guys who want to win together and have that camaraderie and have that sort of common goal that you see with a lot of these championship clubs, right? And if they don't have that, that could also be a big hole as well. Now, again, it would sort of be the same issues facing the Red Sox with free agency and trades on the starting pitching side, right? Do these free agents want to come here? Is the trade market available? And does experience bite the Red Sox in the ass a little bit going into 2024? So leadership is another thing that if the Red Sox are so focused on starting pitching and they neglect, could be a massive problem for the Red Sox in 24. But Justin Turner leaving doesn't just leave a hole in the clubhouse, it leaves a hole in the lineup as well. And it's not just him. Adam Duvall is also leaving too. So when you're looking at the lineup, yeah, it's still going to be fairly good, but you're going to be missing that right-handed power bat, that guy who could sort of break up in between Rafael Devers, Tristan Casas, and Masataka Yoshida. You need someone in there, right? It can't be Duran, can't be Emmanuel Valdez. It could be Trevor Story, but Trevor Story is really the only option. You need other options in there, and now that you don't have Turner and you don't have Duvall, you are missing a giant hole in the lineup. There are people that could step up from the minor leagues, but that's a hope. That's not a reassurance, right? And again, my big fear on the position side of things is that the Red Sox walk into 2024 so focused on improving their pitching staff, they neglect the rest of the team. So in this worst case scenario, it's a lot of just maybe not forgetting, but not prioritizing at all anything going on with the position players on this team, and ending up really creating a hole, not only in the lineup, but in the clubhouse as well. And we're not even done yet, because there's one more piece to this puzzle that would truly make this scenario the most terrifying scenario for Red Sox fans, and that is defense, right? The defense for the Red Sox was miserable in 2023. One of, if not the worst in Major League Baseball. Now, in my opinion, I think the 2023 season will end up being an outlier, right? Kike's no longer on the team, so you've got Trevor Story hopefully starting 162 games at shortstop, which will greatly improve the team's overall defensive metrics. And Trevor Story being over there immediately helped Rafael Devers, and I think having him over there for 162 is going to bring Rafi back up to what we saw in 21, which was a slightly below average defensive third baseman as opposed to one of the worst defensive third basemen in baseball. I think we're going to see this sort of regression back towards the mean as opposed to regression even worse, but there are still ways the Red Sox can improve. And I think you're looking at second base. I think you're looking at maybe a better defensive outfielder, right? There are a couple of different ways the Red Sox could go about this, but again, how high on the priority list is the Red Sox defense for 2024, right? We could get all the starting pitching in the world, and we could have the greatest starting rotation in all of Major League Baseball, but if the team behind him is going to put runners on first and second with nobody out because of 2 errors in a row, or they're going to overthrow second base on a chance to turn a double play, those pitchers become essentially worthless, right? I also think the Red Sox will make 1 or 2 moves to really sort of solidify the infield defense or the outfield defense, but there's a situation here where Rafi comes into 2024. He has not improved at all, right? Tristan Casas, who in my opinion looked a lot better towards the end of the year, and I think that's sort of the general consensus here, that he will be sort of what he looked like at the end of 2023 as opposed to what he looked at the beginning of 2023. But what happens if he regresses, right? You've got Massa in left field. What happens if you trade Alex Verdugo and you put, I don't know, Jaron Duran or Adam Duvall, who's getting older, in right field? There is a legitimate possibility here that going into 2024, the Red Sox only prioritize starting pitching, which is really my biggest fear if we're being totally honest here, but they don't prioritize defense all that much, and we end up with a really good rotation, but no one to back them up, and we end up sort of in a similar situation to what we saw this year. That's sort of the end of my worst case scenario here, and it's a pretty terrifying thought, right? I try to push this to the back of my mind, but on Halloween, right, it's at the forefront right now. So my worst case scenario is the Red Sox go into the offseason either wanting to spend money and not being able to spend money, or not wanting to spend money at all. Either way, turning towards the trade market and having that lack of experience really work against them almost immediately, not being able to figure out an exact trade package and losing out. And there's a bunch of different situations where the trade market doesn't work out. And then to make matters worse, they've prioritized starting pitching so much, they've forgotten about the positional needs of this team, right? Either defensively, in the clubhouse, or in the lineup. Either way, they miss out on opportunities there because they're so prioritized with getting starting pitching onto this team, and they end up going into 2024 looking almost exactly the same, only a little bit worse. That's my biggest fear, and it's a really, really scary thing to think about. But it is Halloween, so let me know in the comment section down below, what is your worst case scenario? Is it just like me, where literally everything that could go wrong goes wrong? Is it just one thing that you're really nervous the Red Sox are either going to forget about or not do well? Or is it something else entirely? Let me know what you think would be worst case scenario for the Red Sox in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Happy Halloween, and I will see you in the red seats.